Hi everybody, good night. How you doing? Let me hear if you are hearing me and say good night to everybody who is on and blessings. Tonight we are on the third episode of a five-part series entitled How the Bible Teaches to Be Wise with Money. This is the third part, and tonight, following on the heels of the first two, which were about persons who were in the Bible, who were saints, who stewarded the finances or the resources that they had well. And then another episode about budgeting and saving and investing. We want to elaborate more on the saving and investment part and talk tonight on topics in relation to insurance, real estate, and businesses. Please note that this is the Hillshire United Churches Tuesday night Bible study. Yes, and we stream every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. We also have on Sundays our usual church service in the sanctuary at 9 a.m. We are prayer and fasting every Saturday at 7 to 9 a.m. And church school and youth fellowship is on. They meet every Sunday during or right after service. Please note that we're coming into a season that we will soon get close to Advent in the next 2 months. Before that, we will reach harvest in the latter part of October. But now it is that we're in the 17th to 18th week or so after Pentecost, and we wanted to concentrate on a few topics. If you check the last series of discussions, not this current one about money management, you will see that we've been concentrating on some things in relation to how the gifts or the talents that God has given us is allowing us to go out into the earth and do great things. So yes, it's church, it's a Bible study, but we have to deal with finances. We have to look at things in relation to the economy. Good night, everybody who's coming on there. And, please say good night, and I'm saying hi to everybody who may be popping on. And we have to talk about things in relation to how we can put some things together so that 10, 20 parts of us become one and we reach into places that are greater than from where we started. Please say good night if you're coming on, and please say hi to everybody else. If you have any questions, as usual, you can always put in a comment. Usually during these sessions, we have some questions as well. Please feel free to answer and or DM or send a WhatsApp or something, and communicate with us in ways that we know that you are participating and you're learning and you're understanding some of the things that are happening and going on. I am, as ever, Brother Johnny Jermaine Alcock. Yes, I am a pastor within the United Church. But please note that I am not a licensed financial advisor, nor insurance or wealth advisor with any company anywhere. So please note that the principles that I'm teaching here are in relation to some things in relation to the Bible and some things in relation to how Jesus may have said financial matters. So we endeavor to use the principles well, but also reach out to persons who are more trained and have more details in more specific details than what we are speaking about here, so that you get the great advice that you need. And note that despite the economy that you're in, there are always people who are willing to help. And there are always bankers and insurance people and people who are working in investment companies, even legal persons who have these details and can help you and can move you forward with your financial dreams and your financial aims. Don't be shy. Don't think that, uh, we discussed once or twice last week that we come into these points where many times we are bombarded by so many things that we have to do. And so we worry and get concerned, or we feel frustrated, and we feel as if we're not good enough, or we feel that we don't have enough, or we're not sure which path to take and how to do and where to do what we're supposed to do. But that's where these institutions come in. There are so many banks and credit unions and uh, accounting firms and all sorts of places. Some of them that have free website with free tools, free people, people who you can go in and consult with freely or ask questions, and they'll be glad to answer your questions, because then maybe you may, start to generate some more revenue in something that you're doing, or to better in the career that you've been trained in, and start to put more money in their institution or utilize their services, and then they also will start to make some money. Some of them also work off commission-based businesses, like real estate agents or insurance advisors and people like that. So they want to see you come and ask questions and endeavor to partake in their business. So please ensure you do so. The things that we learn here are the foundational steps, but you have to take the next set of steps. You have to, with what you have been given, figure out where in life you are. As I said in one of the previous episodes, you are the CEO of your life. You take control of where you are and some of the things that you want to do. And then over time, build on it so that you reach to the places for which you can go. Let us pray. Lord Jesus, we thank you so much for another time together, another time that we can find ways to discuss your word and to reach into places that we could have never really dreamed, apart from knowing that you could lead us here. Thank you that finances and things in relation to life and the things in relation to earning, improving in your careers, diversifying what you can do, and building on what you have been given, and moving forward in your life with proper fiscal and financial management can allow us to learn some things about what you have instilled inside of us, which is patience, which is things in relation to self control, which is things in relation to giving and being kind, and to allowing peace to flow into this earth. Stewardship, discipleship, and everything in between shows that we are trying to do things God's way. Help us, God, to be led by you in all of these matters, to do what is correct, to do what we can do in a godly manner. Amen. Good night, everybody. How's everybody doing? Good night. Good night. We just started a little bit ago, just giving a quick background on some of the things we discussed last time and what we can do tonight. Notes that stewardship and financial prudence dictates that you become an owner of your economic destiny for you and your children. Saving is just the beginning, but proper investing and diversifying is the path to wise financial management. Wise financial management comes from you using the tools of the Holy Spirit in relation to patience and self control. Many of the issues in relation to how we overspend, or maybe how we tend not to wish to give or presume we don't have as much that we can to give, or in ways in relation to how we we become, I guess we'd say, lusting after the things that money can provide, and or trying to presume that finance is the be all and the end all of our existence, comes from this issue. It comes from that we're not at peace with ourselves. It comes from a deep place of you know trying to figure out who we are. We we we, we try to fill it with so many other things. And what we should fill it with is God, who will give you the rewards and the pleasures unknown, a peace beyond understanding. But what we tend to do is try to fill it with stuff of the world. And then we end up broken, frustrated, unsure of ourselves. And then God now has to do his thing, which is to help you mend back the pieces again. But to shortchange all of that mending, let's start by ensuring we understand more about what God requires of us. We cannot take anything that we create or do and make, and the resource of the things that we put on this earth back with us. We just can't. So if you approach your life by moving in a way that is diligent, where you're controlled, where you ask God to guide you to places to do good things for Him, where you're allowing the talents and the gifts that He has given you to mature so much that if anybody asks you and you just say, well, I read a nice book around the corner and I had some good mentorship and God favors me. Please don't let that be your answer as to how you got some of the things you got. God gave you some things, and what you're doing is ensuring that you manage it properly to give it back to Him. That's the answer. Question one is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. It only has one answer. Saving is the only way to manage and grow your money. Is that true or false? I think it should be obvious to those who watched the last episode. Tonight, let's skip to the first set of verses where it says saving is the beginning. And please note the verses that are about to pop up on the screen. Let me try to put it up. There it is. Hopefully it's readable. I'm going to try to enlarge the screen where it says, those who work their land will have abundant food. But those who chase fantasies have no sense. Wow, that's I didn't realize it sounded so feisty. Those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. So one of the first things I revealed last week is kind of obvious, but sometimes I look at people and wonder if it really is that obvious. Is that you cannot gain anything to move towards your financial dreams and get to steward and then invest and grow unless you're actually working to then get it. No, you you obviously, right, are noting and knowing that people get money in different ways in this world. You can win the lottery, sure, but gambling through Bible based uh, thoughts and morality is not correct. It is wrong. Sure, you can inherit something, but I can guarantee you that if you don't have good financial management skills, you don't reach out for the help that you need and do proper practices with what you have gained, you will simply lose it. Isn't it an oxymoron where you hear about athletes who perform well and get a lot of money, but then they didn't manage the resources that they got or the money, and then years later you see where they're bankrupt or having issues figuring out their financial management or the finances of their life, or somebody who won the lottery and similarly has similar issues. So that does not dictate where you go. What dictates it is how you do it with control, and you have prudence, which is a big term which simply means that you're disciplined and you manage it appropriately and effectively. Now you will know very quickly, and this is just me being as simple and as quick as possible, that you can have different types of savings accounts. Many banks tend to assist young people as they're growing. And please, parents, if you are in that sort of category, remember very quickly that every bank, barring none, has savings account that children can be added to or start their name on. And I will refrain from calling the names of some of the financial institutions and or the instruments that they utilize. But note, yes, that you can get your children started in that manner. And then you can obviously open your own general savings accounts. You can also open what they call checking accounts. And note that because of the nature of our own financial economy, and even elsewhere, not just in Jamaica, normal savings account can assist to build an interest yearly over time. But it is nowhere close to what you may need to ensure that you build on the income that you have and grow it and invest it properly. So the financial institutions and many others, remember I mentioned credit unions, you also have investment banks, have other instruments or products such as high yield savings accounts. You don't know what that is, reach out to your bank. Those are instruments that you can save just like normal, but it has a higher rate of interest to the normal savings account. Some of them have different rules and regulations in how you use them, and you can find out more from your financial institution. You also have things called fixed deposit or certificate of deposits. Now, it is simply you putting your money in your financial institution for a set number of period of time, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 24 months, meaning 2 years. And it also has a higher basis of interest rate for that period of time. And each period of time, and they dictate that by their different guidelines, whether it's 3 months, which is a quarter, or a year, each year, the interest builds upon each other. You also have something called unit trust. It's all there somewhere at the bottom of the screen there. And note that by next week, when we start to talk about borrowing money or using it in the right way when you're borrowing, I hope to be able to send some documentation so we can discuss some more in relation to calculating budgeting properly and ensuring that we do it in ways that we don't lose as we're trying to do. And it's not easy. Many times the finances that we gain sure are dependent on the 9 to 5 that we work. But I will show quite quickly that how people tend to gain more things, and all of the persons who know these things will tell you, is not necessarily through 9 to 5. Sure, there are some careers that do earn good incomes per month, especially when you're very highly educated. But then most times, how you tend to gain more is not by they just saving or they just getting a 9 to 5 and cooling the jets, but by diversifying what you possess, by moving into all of this. This is just one of the set of things I'm going to discuss today that you see on the screen right below me, above the question that you're scrolling, into other instruments or products and services that your financial institutions and your investment places can assist you with. Now, unit trust, which is more an investment-based product, which is still listed there, but just for the sake of probably not having a avenue to put it elsewhere below here in the next set of things I'm talking about. It's another instrument that you can reach out to your investment banks to find out about. Usually also has a higher type of interest rate in relation to putting money into it, and then it accrues over time. And it is not quite saving, but is more, I guess we'd say, putting your money pooled with others, and the bank, it's almost as if the bank holds it to then pay you back at the points in interest because they're holding it, but it's at a higher rate than normal savings, right? Um, so what the proverb is trying to show, as you saw me project earlier, how's everybody doing? Anybody have any questions? Anybody on to answer that question there? Saving is the only way to manage and grow your money, true or false? Where you see that thing that says those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense, shows quite quickly that little by little, we used a verse last week that says, little by little you will see growth. Little by little, you have to now build on the things that you possess to then move to places that are greater than where you thought you are or where you think you can go to. You now have to be diligent. We can't take our lives anymore as if any little fantasy pop up, we're ready to run after it. Anything that is looking excitable, we chase it down. Anything that looks like a nice shiny coin, we run after it because it promises things to us. People in this world, just like you are thinking, trying to figure out your life and your finances, can do some scamming based stuff, can try to mess with you. And hence, why in Jamaica, there is an institution or an agency, I'm not calling it, that assists to manage the affairs of financial institutions so that they do not fall amok. And every country has such an institution and do things in the right ways. And we have had issues with some places that didn't do such a thing and manage the finances, but kind of made it into a Ponzi scheme. And I don't mean where you have a hierarchy of a business where things trickle down and there is still money accrued as surplus to pour back or invested elsewhere, and then people's money gets a certain type of interest rate or growth over time, which is what banks do. They tend to give you high promises. You'll get 20 or 30% back quickly. You throw a partner, they say. No, this is not a partner where, in Jamaica, we have this thing called partner. I'm not sure where else in the world this is. If you're anywhere else, please do drop a line and tell me about that. Where you pull together some funds and at the end of a month, everybody gets a piece off of it. But it's like you get more because everybody pulled in a similar amount, but by the time your time comes around, you're getting more than you had originally put in because there are so many amount of people putting in the same amount, which can work, sure, but then you have to be careful that if you see an institution presuming to give you rates higher than what the inflation rate, especially of your country, is, oh God, I don't know where you're streaming from, North America, Africa, or somewhere in the Caribbean or even in Jamaica right here. But be wary, please. Be wary because they're really saying or doing those things to try to mess with you, to try to take your hard-earned money or some money you get from some relative, and you think you're gonna get a high interest quicker, and then you get to run into problems. So the place it will always crumple down over time, but it will reach a maximum or a tipping point where there's not enough of the finances to pour back into the people who poured into it. And what the owner or the administrators of those things tend to do is pile out piece of the money for themselves because it's a trap, it's a trick. And then they leave you And some gained something from it at the start, but then they took out what they could and then went their way. And then some, the majority, are left broken and messed up. So note these things, please, because the excitement, the fantasies of this life, it will come because people trying to figure out themselves and improve their lives. But you have to do it in a disciplined way. The majority of those multimillionaires that you see in this world, and I say multimillionaires, I mean multi US dollar millionaires, were not necessarily people who grew into money, but they learned to take their time and build over time. And they learn what I spoke about last week, which is to create things and have ownership of things. I'll talk about that soon. And even if you don't come into a space where you want to become an entrepreneur or want to own things, you can do things, as I'm going to discuss here, that holds your money and then pushes it into places to invest. And then over time it builds so that you and your family start to get more secure on your bill. Don't go into a rush. Don't think that you're going to die now because you can't pay the bills. Look at where you are, budget. Sometimes you have to pull in the belt and be frugal. Just presume that you have no money and and weather the storm so that you build yourself to a point where you can then move and diversify and then get a little bit easier for your financial spending. But the reason why we don't do that is because we see people going and doing things and we think we're being left behind. So now we want to spend and go on sprees and get excited and no, don't do that. Don't run down what you see other people doing and feeling that you're left out or not in the in crowd or this person went to this activity or this hotel this day and this person is driving this vehicle this time of a year and this person around here look like them always have money and just throwing around and having big parties and oh my god fantasies. The writer of this proverb, work what you've got, build on it little by little. The abundance will surely come in a season when God intends for it to come to you. Good. Now, the next set of things I want to show you is in relation to insurance. Right? Now, you have different types of insurance investments. Again, remember, I am not a licensed financial provider. United Church in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, which I'm a member, is a church. But we are here talking about things in relation to money because it's something that we all have to manage. And there are Bible scriptures that can help us to do things in the right way. So you know that there are insurance institutions or financial institutions that have an insurance arm. You seek them out as we are talking about these things so that you can funnel your money into the places which we discussed tonight and reach the places to improve on your financial health. Proverbs 13, verse 22 says this. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. Wow, 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 wow. Now, insurance is something. Good night, everybody who may be coming on there. I see 2, 3, 1, 2 people coming up there. I will not call their names. But good night. Please say good night to everybody who's popping on. And if you know the answer to the question 1, which is restreaming at the bottom of the screen there, please do put it in the comment. True or false? Saving is the only way to manage and grow your money. Now, insurance is a tool that you can use similar to the things that we discussed before to pool money into an institution that holds it for you. And then at the point when you have an issue or an emergency, it helps to draw back from it. Or where there is some sort of liability for which the insurance agency allows, or the company, it will allow you to draw the money for it, right? And that, as you well know, can be like home insurance, like if there's a flood or a hurricane or some sort of issue in relation to fire or theft or something like that, auto insurance, and you have to have auto insurance in this country to drive legally on the roads, including a license and a registration and your own driver's license. And the reason for that is, of course, you usually have some sort of incident. And so the insurance company is there to protect you or help you so that when you go into a difficulty, you can pay back the person you have the accident in with or assist you to fix back the vehicle and or do whatever it is that is required. Health insurance is good for you because you are a spirit in a physical vessel. You can, of course, ascend and go to God in eternity soon, whenever it is that is. But while you're here on earth, if you want to steward your temple to the best of its ability, you're going to have to see some doctors. You have to go make sure you see some nutritionists, exercise, take care of your body. And when you're not feeling so 100%, you find ways to ensure you improve yourself. But sometimes it takes some money to get those things done. So that's why you have health insurance. And now it is that another term which some may not know or even understand called critical illness, which is a type of insurance, but it's usually in some of the companies that hold these things held to the life insurance policy, allows you to be assisted whenever a specific type of condition, some of them listed in some of the companies, are things like cancer, heart attack, stroke, blindness, uh, burns, and things like that, accidents and things that can come up with, but which can be more debilitating for you or cause you to have to spend more than the usual health issue and or make it even lose your finances or if you didn't have health insurance or take longer periods from work than necessary and then you have to now get some help financially. Critical illness is a key one because the life expectancy of many of us, it says three score and ten, but we're getting older and older and older as the ages progress, is getting longer and better for many, especially in the developed world where there's so much technology and so much access to things that we spoke about a while ago in relation to health and improving your health through health insurance if you may, right? But here comes the other part, life insurance. Now, life insurance is both insurance against your life and something to assist your current living state. The majority of the companies, and it also depends on the type of policy that is, or the instrument that is used. All of them have different types, and some for specifically males, some for specifically for women, some of them have specifically for you and family, or some of them have some that are the life insurance tied to the critical illness and things like that. You check your financial institution and see what is best for you and be guided by the persons who do these things in relation to financial advice with insurance to get the right details is important because you have to pass on, right? And you want to ensure that the legacy of the things, we just discussed that in Proverbs 13, verse 22, passes on in a good enough way so that your children are a little better off than you were. And or the expenses in relation to taking care of the the funeral and the things that happen when you pass on are taken care of, even though you have passed on. Or you were one of the major breadwinners, or maybe even the only one. And it leaves a bit of funds there so that when you pass on, it goes to people who are your dependents or are your beneficiaries of you. That's the usual term that is used on that type of policy. And it helps them to gain some things or a lump sum when you're not around and you're not earning anymore, basically, because you're passed on, so that they can still be provided for. But I can tell you that if you do this well and you start from early, that it can even come to points because some of these policies have a portion that can be drawn off because it's savings versus investments. Check a financial institution, you'll find out more details. Where you may be in a little bit of a spell or trying to figure out something and you can draw part of the funds from it. People, I'll speak more about trust funds soon later though. People who are more relationally wise and have longer family legacies will tell you that they can create trust funds and cause their family to have these sort of pooled funds that is in a financial institution regulated, and it pools in there, and as one passes on, it passes on to the other set of people. And then when those have their things going on, they may borrow from it. And when those pass on, the money they had passes into it and moves to the next set of persons. And I know it may sound all over the place or weird, but yes, these things exist in the world. And yes, it is legal. And yes, you, even in your small quote unquote state, can go to your financial institutions, find out some of these things, set them up, and teach those. Let me project back the picture. Below you, the same principle so that those funds stay and continue to accumulate and build so that you have built a legacy. You didn't just come and then the children came and then you were gone. That you allowed them to see something in relation to financial management, build something for them, left them in a state, not just with money, but with great mental information about how to manage it, and then they then bring it into the fullness of that same family and legacy. There is nothing greater than doing so much in this earth that you're able to be known generations later. And one of the greatest ways to ensure you shield yourself is through insurance and proper management of your finances. We'll talk about trust funds and we'll say a bit as well in the way that you are. Now, the answer to that question, which is scrolling across the screen, as you can imagine, is false. No, it is not the only way to manage and grow your money. It is actually the starting point. But you have many other instruments, as I've just mentioned, which I'm not done with, where you can get assistance through your financial institutions to build on some things and ensure that things accrue and build over time. Now, where are you going to get this money to put into some of these places and to do some of these things? Is this just for the upper middle class and the high net worth people? And is this something that I can start doing? I wish and I hope that you know that it can be done by any person. No, hi, good night. I'm not gonna call that person saying, but good night. Hope you're okay and everything is well. Please say good night and make a comment or ask a question if you have any questions. Thank you all for joining. You can open an account. Some of the accounts have different starting points, please note. And you can save at different levels. And it will still accrue. But you have to be disciplined. You have to know where you are, how much you earn, how much you spend, what you can cut back on. We'll get to that next week. And then you will know how much you can put into some of these places and some of these instruments, little by little, building over time until you reach points where you can now diversify the funds that you possess and what you have so that it moves into places and you can grow and become exactly what God intended for you to do on this earth. The things in relation to finances are one that is very controversial. It is very topical. But one thing or one myth that people have, I tackled this one last 2 weeks ago as I began, is that we think because we have a certain amount that we earn every month, and that is one where we're stuck at, or we presume that we can't, it's just too little or not much enough to save or do something with it. It can do something. It's difficult because life is difficult and we have so many expenses. But there's something we're probably missing somewhere. There's something we're probably spending on, or a vice or some weakness that we may not need to be spending on. There's something out there. There's maybe a way that we can uh, try to put a small amount in a higher yield savings account somewhere. There's something out there. There's something where maybe we can pull on a little bit on a unit trust, little by little by little by little. By 3 years' time, you'll be surprised what it can do. There's something somewhere. And then, apart from the life insurance and the health, and making sure that if we fall into some sort of critical illness area, I forgot this one before I came to this section of what I'm talking about. We can build for our future so that when we're older and we cannot work, or we're retired from wherever we're working, we can have some amount of pooled funds again so that we can get a lump sum from the insurance or the financial institution. And then it pays back to us little by little. Luckily, in our Jamaican avenue, we already pay into such a fund. And I'm sure that many different countries have something similar. You know about the 401k status thing in the United States. Ever hear about national insurance scheme? Of course. But you must know that little by little, you can also open uh, a pension fund in an approved retirement scheme. In Jamaica, you can only own one. The others I listed, you can open as many of them as you want. Everything that I will list here, apart from wills and pensions, you can open as many of them as you want to, as many of them as you think you can do, right? But the reason for that is obviously you have other ways that you can save. But this pension scheme building of funds has to be regulated in a certain way so that you don't fall folly. Also, because of how it is set, you can't take out more than about 20% of your income for a month or a year out of wherever you are to build into that fund. Also, when you're saving, just as you're starting to save, it is advised that anywhere between 5 to 10%, some people even go as far as 20%, is what you should take out of what you have. So you have things that you need. You need to, so that 5 to 10% is something you're going to take out to then put somewhere to circulate or to save or then put to grow somewhere. But there are things that you need. You have to drink water. You have to pay for light. Thank God for the light that is provided tonight. And that I can speak to you guys. Good night, my sister who's just coming on there. Thank God for the, the instruments that I have that are connected to the internet. You need to pay for utilities. You need to pay for food so you can live and survive. You need to ensure that you You pay for things like something for your vehicle or something for your kids to go to school, or fees and property taxes and income taxes and all sorts of other things. Those are needs. Calculate it, figure out where it is and what percentage is taken out. It's usually about 50% of this stuff. Then go for the wants. The wants are more like other things that you can spend on, but you may not always necessarily have to. And that can be new clothing. That can be a different type of vehicle or paying into one. That can be some other set of things that you need to buy for your house, right? And then you get to this point, the 5 to 10 to 20%, where you now have to figure out how it is that you're going to pull or push it somewhere so that it does something with what you have received. The problem with what most people are experiencing, the answer to that rolling across the bottom is false. The problem with what most people are experiencing is that they're not stewarding that part properly. And so they tend to overspend or they mismanage and end up, I'm not sure, spending something more in some area that they shouldn't. Or if it is that you're at a lower income bracket, you presume that there is nothing that can come out of it. I can guarantee you, and I will show you next week, that there's always something else that you can probably add on and do in the life that you live. There's always something else that you can improve in your qualifications and build upon. And there's always something that you can cut back on. And there's always some way that you can go out into the atmosphere and do some things so that you gain some more to then put it somewhere to build over time, right? The next question I have is, so note the talking points. I know some of you are taking notes. We just spoke about savings, and right after that I spoke about insurance. But note, savings is the beginning point. Use it and put it into different instruments over time. Then you have insurance, and I listed some of the things that you can do with it. Note that you try to pull away a certain amount each month or each year so that it builds into different instruments over time. And then because you're trying to be disciplined and ensure that you're protecting yourself and your family, try to build up at least 3 to 6 months worth of that, just in case you lose your job or where you are, or it is that you reach into places that it's just a tight spot, maybe a family emergency, maybe a health emergency, where the health insurance is not fully covered, or you're just having some issues, right? And then the next thing that you need to start doing, the next question that comes up is, if you receive generational wealth, it is guaranteed, this is the first part of it. It's a question and there only can be one good answer. It is guaranteed that you'll also be rich if you receive generational wealth. True or false? It is guaranteed that you must also pass it on. Or rather, if you receive it, you must also pass it on. If you receive generational wealth, that means your parents were always rich. Or D, God favors you more than others. It's a bit of a trick question. I'll answer the correct answer in a bit. Now, you must see quite quickly that I mentioned some things in relation to ownership last week. Now, you are somebody who is going out to steward some things in your life, right? But how is it that you're going to do that if you are not possessing things? And so the way you're going to start accumulating some things is that either you have started to put your foot out there to own and possess some assets, or you are assisting those who do possess it to manage it, and then you go out and start owning some of the things on your own. But but you just there is just no other way. If you do anything in any other way, it's probably illegal or you're doing something illegal. And one of the ways is through real estate. Now, of course, you can own or you can rent. But um, you're when I say rent, I mean you own part of the property and you're renting it out to try to get an income into what you possess. Home ownership in Jamaica is a touchy topic because similar to the national insurance scheme, we have the National Housing Trust. And the paying into that fund is something that everybody who's working above a certain wage bracket is supposed to do. And it helps to ensure that you then have money that you can draw back on, similar to how I describe insurance or many other instruments. You can put money into this sort of fund, you pull back from it. And then even if it's not at the amount of what they allow you to draw from, put money from other places as well as other financial institutions and pay for a property. Now, the NHT has its own rules and regulations. Check them out, figure out more about how to manage the funds that you have there. And note that there are also building societies and commercial banks that have specific instruments that you can put in there, and you're telling them this is the reason why I'm putting in there, and they can assist you and advise you, and then they put it in places that they know will assist to make those funds grow for you to then become an home owner. But if you don't put yourself in a mindset, and I go back to this because this is very important, to know your aims and your goals of where you want to put your money, what you're doing with it, and you set a plan for a year or 2 years or 3 years, then how you're going to know, all right, I can put this amount this time, and over time it's going to build up to this amount. And then I can pull it with this amount, and then it will allow me to do this. It just can't happen. Hence why I did a session last week about budgeting, saving, and investing. Real estate is a little touchy because there are many who don't necessarily possess their own place or their own uh, area that they can all call their home or their own. And the price for this is dearer than any other thing that I just listed here. It's more difficult to own a home than to start a business. I'll talk about it later. Sometimes it's more difficult and costlier to own a home than get a vehicle. It's more costlier than just starting some stock investing. I'll talk about that in a bit too. It's costlier than saving up the money that you want to put towards it, obviously. It's costlier than borrowing some money somewhere and running up and down and trying to figure out some side hustling or some entrepreneurship. I'll talk about that next week. But it is a way where you know that that product, your home, is going to appreciate without doubt. If you're ever going to any of those schemes that build themselves up to whether developers or even through the same energy which I mentioned, or whatever agency you are in whatever part of the world that does such things, you will see that the homes tend to always appreciate in value even after a few years have passed. Almost always. And compared to a vehicle, compared to even probably jewelry, give or take what type of jewelry it is, or expensive luxury clothing and things like that. Once you start to put equity, meaning you're paying into a mortgage, we'll discuss more about what a mortgage is next week, to gain that instrument or that asset, then it is that you bring more equity into the property, into the place that you're trying to possess. And then it is that you're able to leverage that same asset to do other things as well over time. And it's also good because then you can pass it on, just as I mentioned earlier, to those who are younger than you, or even some other family member when you pass, so that they can now manage to then do some things better with their life when they are growing up too. Jeremiah, even though he was locked up, and he was locked up multiple times, and he was called a weeping prophet. He wrote Lamentations. His scribe Baruch, relative of his, and some other people, was always doing things in relation to writing down his words and trying to ensure that he could speak the word of God, or rather, to is the words of God that came to him, that they were recorded in some manner. And uh, you must note that while he was there, he found a way, even in the place where he was, to manage some resources that he possessed and allow his relatives and his scribe to put some things together, and then became prophetic to show that the nature of what it was representing was that even though they were in such a state and were being led through the places in Babylon and some of the places that held them captive, that there were still areas where they could grow and they could improve, and that they can build upon. And I want you to see this so that you understand that this is something that you can do. You may think that you're not able to do something in a limited space or wherever you are. Do you really think so, or are you presuming so based off the environment that you're in? Because God teaches and shows us different things. He teaches and shows us that he will make rivers in wastelands. He teaches and shows us that he's able to provide even in times and places that are seemingly out of sorts. He teaches and shows us that we are children of God who can do multiple things through his uh, everlasting abundance. I knew that this was the word of the Lord. So I bought the field at Anathoth from my cousin Hanamel and weighed out for him 17 shekels of silver. I signed and sealed the deed, had it witnessed, and weighed out the silver on the scales. I took the deed of purchase, the sealed copy containing the terms and conditions, as well as the unsealed copy, and I gave this deed to Baruch, son of Neriah, the son of Mashiach, in the presence of my cousin Hanamel, and of the witnesses who had signed the deed, and of all the Jews sitting in the courtyard of the guard. There's a man there, or a place where he was kind of restricted. So I go out there in the courtyard, call up him scribe, him cousin come, and then seal and sign a deed to do some things because that cousin was doing some things. And so he said to him, well, this thing here, it is your right and your duty to buy it because you're the nearest relative to me. This is how it was in the tradition of the Jews at the time. And so they came together, did what they needed to do, and managed their affairs. And so now he put them in a clay jar to preserve them and keep them for the posterity of the time, where he said that the Lord God Almighty was prophesying and speaking in relation to how houses, fields, and vineyards will again be bought in this land. After I had given the deed of purchase to Baruch, son of Neriah, I prayed to the Lord. So Jeremiah teaches and shows us 2 or 3 different things very quickly. Very, very quickly. And note, let me scroll up. This is the second to last thing. Well, we have 2 more things to talk about and then we'll close. How's everybody doing? Anybody have any questions so far? There's a question scrolling at the bottom of the screen. If you receive generational wealth, it is guaranteed that you will also be rich. You must also pass it on. That means your parents were always rich. God favors you more than others. You know the answer. Is it A, B, C, or D? Now, quickly look at how Jeremiah does his work. And you will see that one thing happened after the next, after the next. He became honorable and followed the laws of his culture and his because his uncle came here, or his cousin rather, who is related to his uncle. And then he said to him, this thing is in the territory of the place from where we came. You're my nearest relative. They're moving on and doing some things. You're the one who's supposed to buy from me. He doesn't hesitate. He starts the process and moves to do the work that, you know, he was asked to do. The next thing that happened here is that he weighed out some funds and some money for it. Now, you know, if you don't realize quickly that how businesses operate is through movement from sales, something is marketed to you, you get that interest in doing something, there's a sales process that happens, money or some sort of resources exchanged, and then you get one product and then try to work on it to do something else. Don't just be a consumer in life. Be a producer. Isn't it better, and we'll talk about this in a bit, to have some stocks in some of the major companies that we already utilize and do stuff from than just consuming their products? Because basically, if you are a shareholder or somebody who has shares or stocks in that company, each time you pay for some of those things, it's almost as if you had already possessed part of it and just paid a smaller amount from what you just purchased because you're an owner in the company. I'll talk about that in a bit. Isn't it better that you are in a space where you see yourself able to do some things, but you don't think you can push yourself past it? And you change your mindset in how you view your life, you discipline yourself, and you start to build on the things that you have little by little in some sort of savings account. Isn't it better that even though you may not be earning as much as you hope for, you go and speak to an insurance advisor and you say, I need at the point that I reach 65, that I have at least something a little bit saved somewhere where I can get some money back every month as well as a lump sum. Or you just gonna look and you see and you presume that you're going to just do a thing and then hope for the best when the future appears. I really hope that you don't see your life like that, that you see the possibilities of who you are, what you can be, and what you can achieve financially. Much better to think more positively. And so the measures are weighed out, and then a process starts, a deal is done with terms and conditions. And he gave his scribe some instructions. And then here comes the prayer. Oh, sorry. Here comes the prophecy from God. Houses, fields, and vineyards will again be brought in this land. And then comes the prayer. Sovereign Lord, you made the heavens and the earth by your great power and your outstretched arm. Nothing is too hard for you. And it continues in multiple other verses in things in relation to what Jeremiah started to speak from God in relation to this thing about houses and vineyards being built. Are you combining, thinking about your finances and growing it and being guided by God's Spirit? Are you being just in how you're doing what you're doing? Are you being loyal to your relatives and your family members? Are you following good mentorship? Are you see how many things come out of this one little simple thing here? Are you thinking hopeful that even though things around you look dire and weird, that you're still building and investing into something? And also showing others that they can also build and invest into something and grow it. Oh, Jesus, I feel something tonight. Houses and vineyards. Houses, fields, and vineyards, and maybe as exact as the NIV is saying it, will again be bought in this land. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Which leads us to businesses. No, I've always been saying from the last few episodes that you are a walking CEO. You are a chief executive officer of yourself. The answer to that question, which is streaming at the bottom there, is B. You must pass it along. As you can imagine from what I was saying, it is not guaranteed that if you gain wealth, that you will keep it or continue to be rich. Some people are squandering stuff all the time. It is not guaranteed that when you received it, your parents were rich or their parents were always rich. No, they could have worked and gained something and then passed it down to you. Hence, why, if they work and do the things so well and were so prudent and disciplined, that it is incumbent on you not to squander it and waste and do weird things with it, with what you have received. And no, God doesn't play favors specifically, which is something that people kind of misunderstand. I think people misunderstand this. The reason why David was so quote unquote favored is because he was a man after God's own heart. God is seeking all of us, trying to allow us to do some good things. But are you seeking him? Solomon had so many legacies built and carried down to him. Excuse me, please. When I talk about the shrewd manager and a little bit, apologies, there was a bit of a loud noise in my background, so I had to pause the stream for a bit. Where it talks about the parable of the shrewd manager before we get into talking about companies and stuff investing. But I wanted to make a quick point of how it is that you are the chief executive officer of yourself. God is your great chairman and manager, but you have been given some responsibility. Just like Baruch, just like Hanamel, just like Jeremiah, who are accountable to each other, you are accountable to people around you too. But then you have to manage yourself enough so that you go out and do some things with what you possess. We spoke about stock investing earlier, but it is one of the quickest ways where some of the money that you have, if you don't want to put it in a savings account, or you don't want to put it in a unit trust or a high yield savings, that you can invest in a company. So yes, you can invest in shares and stocks, which are just part of, I guess we could say, a percentage of a company. And yes, you will now become an owner of something. You don't have to start a business on your own. You can look for places that have already been well and the strict guidelines and rules in relation to those that are listed on the stock exchanges, especially in Jamaica and some of the more developed worlds. They're strict. And so you look and you see which companies may be doing well and increasing their revenue and bringing out more products and also have stable outlooks. And there are people who are much more attuned to these things than some, and you can check them at the investment banks in Jamaica and around the world who can help you. And you go and you invest in some of these places. You know that you can buy shares from places that are already established on the stock exchange, but at the first point in which they come onto it, they do something called an IPO or an initial public offering. And that is simply where their shares and their stock allowances are given. It is the lowest it will be unless it goes on the stock exchange and then starts to drop. Usually at a point when it is put on the stock exchange. So that is when many people start to jump in and try to buy into the stock because they know it will eventually increase over time. But you can join and buy any stock or any share once it's listed on the stock exchange. Companies also have something called APOs or additional public offerings, where at some point they're trying to raise some more capital to do something with their company or pay down some debt somewhere or improve in some facility or manufacturing in somewhere or some service part of their business to improve it. And they put out more shares so that you can pool your money in. They invest it in the company, increase it with good revenue and profits, and then give you back part of the portion of it, either in dividends you can earn from stocks in a few ways, either by dividends, which are paid out at a point by the company at different points, many times yearly, sometimes quarterly. Or if the stock that you purchase increases over time, then you can draw back some of the funds from where it increased, and you would have gained something from that improvement that happened over time. Stock investing is a little more difficult than just doing some side hustling on the road. And so you have to know, speak to people who know a little bit more about financing, please, to do it right. There are also a lot of rules in relation to doing it, and they have these apps, and you can not only invest in places in Jamaica, obviously you can invest in places abroad as well, or companies abroad as well. Note that companies that are on some of these stock exchanges, some of them are small to medium business and some of them are larger businesses. In Jamaica, we have a junior market and a general or more senior stock exchange section for bigger companies or corporate entities. And it is the same in many other countries who have different variances in the type of businesses that list and do some things to build up their equity. You also can become a business owner. You can become an entrepreneur. You can do some things in the environment and try to earn some money on your own. And this is not the path that we have been taught when we're in school, mainly because it's easier to learn a trade and a skill, be hired by somebody, and or join an entity, and they handle the more dangerous and I guess you could say difficult parts of administration and finances and sales and marketing and figuring out things in relation to money management, which we're talking about tonight, and ensuring employees get paid. And some of them may pay into some of these same schemes for you that we mentioned, like NIS and NHT, and ensure statutory deductions are taken out. And little by little, you grow and you do your thing. If you work that money, save some of it and put it elsewhere. But if you want to branch out because you have a passion for something and you see where you can make a mark and do something, you should. You should, because it is one of the most fulfilling things to do. And the majority of the people who you see become self-made millionaires is not working in the 9 to 5. They started and decided to do something different and branch out. Bam. 5, 10, 15 years later, you see them become more improved out into the atmosphere and having some more, I guess you could say, resources and doing some more things and networking and building their financial acumen and improving in the resources and the assets that they possess. So that is a probably another set of studies on its own. But know very quickly that even in Jamaica, there is a Companies Office of Jamaica where you can apply to and register your business. Good night. 2 or 3 other people just popped on. If you have any questions, please ask. If you know the answer to the question on the screen, please answer it, even though I already answered it. And the third question that pops up, I will put it up in a bit, but please note the note that is about to pop up at the bottom of your screen. Yes, so you, through the Companies Office of Jamaica, every country, similar to what I'm describing, can also allow you to open businesses in different formats or in different ways. In Jamaica, it's either going to be a charitable or a foundation. We'll talk about that next week. Sorry, not next week, the week after next week on the last episode. Or it's going to be a LLC, a limited liability company, or it's going to be a partnership, or it's going to be a sole trader business, right? And each of them have different amounts of money that you have to pay to start them up, but it also has different guidelines in how to operate them so that they function well and follow the rules of the different entities that it is in movement with, right? But it is more difficult, as I said, than going out or in some qualification or trade and then being hired somewhere. But if you feel that that is something that you can do, and I mentioned one of the reasons why it is something what you may want to do, please do approach it and think to do it if you must. Now, the shrewd manager is a parable that was given by Jesus, which the scribes and Pharisees did not like, because he was talking about a rich manager. He was really applying or talking about himself, who accused, a man who was rich, who is him, who was accusing his manager, which is some of us, of being wasteful, similar to the parable of the talents, which we mentioned each of the last 2 episodes. And so, what the man decided to now do was gird up himself and become more productive. And look what the man did. So we call him in. This is the rich man calling in his manager and asked him, "What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer." The man just said to himself, "What shall I do now? My master has taken away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses." And what did he do? He decided to call in all of his master's debtors. He asked the first, "How much do you owe my master?" 900 gallons of olive oil, that person replied. The manager told him, "Take your bill, sit down quickly and make it 450. 450 is half of 900. Then he asked the second, "How much do you owe?" 1,000 bushels of wheat, that person replied. He told him, "Take your bill and make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. But the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches?" Let me pause right there and come back and show my face. So this is also part of the reason why I'm doing this. Because the financial part of our lives and our economic sphere assist us in the other parts. because it is where we many times will be tested the most. It is said that apart from talking about the kingdom of heaven and about hell, Jesus spoke about money a lot. It's because it's one of the things that love to hold us, or we look to, or want to make ourselves pleasurable in, or run down, or mess ourselves up over. And the reason why Jesus says this now is because he said, if you can manage these things and the finances and the things of this world well, then he will know that when he sees you and the things he gives you, then you're going to be able to manage those too. But if you can't manage even a little square footage, then why should he give you mansions in the sky? Real thing not talking about. Let me project back this thing or so. Can you think say a joke and make with this? Watch this. Jesus says, if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? He has all the things of this world. He has all the riches. Everything. Will you gain the eternal kingdom if you squandered and just did nothing with the things that you possess? Be very careful, please. The steward was, kind of lazy and slovenly and slothful. But as soon as a rich man girded up that manager, he decided, well, I'm going to have to go there and get some work done and get these debtors going and make something move and shift and something's going around. We don't like talking about money. And we do not like, uh, doing things business-wise and worrying about the counting and the figuring things out because we are afraid. We're afraid of making mistakes. We're afraid of people looking at us and saying, well, look at this person. You're a Christian. Why are you running down and doing so many different things? We're afraid because we have been incorrectly taught and presume that money is evil or that we shouldn't possess it. That is not what the Bible says. The Bible encourages you to have good management of the things you possess and be a borrower, not a lender, to be a blessing, to ensure that you manage where you are and do the best of what you can with it. It doesn't say you must run down or try to gain wealth, which is different. It doesn't say that you should lust after money or be controlled like a stronghold or a spirit. We spoke about that in a previous series about the spiritual warfare. To be controlled because there's a spirit called mammon, which is the evil things in relation to monetary things. You must do it in a way that is pleasing to God and glorifies Him. Are you gonna be like the shrewd manager and be girded up and start to go out and barter some things and at least get back the things that are in relation to your master and move forward in an effective manner and be fruitful, or will you be wasteful like the one who had the one talent and hid it? If you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? No one. Wow, this is exactly where Jesus speaks about mammon. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Look at this party, son. The Pharisees who love money heard all this and were sneering at Jesus. Because when they were in the temple, they were more concerned about how much they could gain and how they could look and all the traditions that they could do. And they were never concerned with ensuring the people around them were provided for or that they understood more about the God who they should be serving and felt better emotionally and were built up properly and encouraged. Never concerned about those things. More concerned about ensuring that the tithes came in and that they, the people around them. Jesus said that started to turn his temple into a marketplace. never concerned about the people fully. And so here they are. I want you to look closely. Now, this is the Bible I'm reading. I'm in Luke. And the people who were the persons who should have been the leaders and helping those who are around them to build up their spiritual maturity were sneering at a man who told them to be careful how they manage money. And we know better in this age either. The Pharisees who loved money heard all this and was sneering at Jesus. He said to them, "You are the ones who justify yourselves in the eyes of others, but God knows your hearts. What people value highly is detestable in God's sight." And Jesus was just asking to stir up some answers here. You will see below. You're interested in investing into the Hillshire United Church, and I'm seeing quite a few persons jumping. I remember we're gonna speak about tithes and offerings in the last episode of this 5, and other things like charitable giving to people who are needy, ensuring you pay taxes as best as you can, and things like that, right? But always remember to give into the places from which you came or for which serves you. My God, I know that was a hard saying for the people of that day. What Jesus said. Not only because Luke, who was fairly descriptive, his adopter said they sneered at him, but because, of course, they killed him. And because, of course, if you go into places and see things that are not happening right, and you kindly say, "Correct yourself, please," or "Why do you behave in such way to your brothers and sisters?" Help them, and don't damage them, please. Be a borrower, not a lender. Be a helper, not somebody who's going to be wasteful or hurtful. Help to teach others. Help to motivate them. Don't just run around trying to grab after money. Use it in ways that will glorify God. Oh God, they will come for you. And that's exactly what they did to Jesus. And if you're his follower and you're trying to follow and do things his way as best as you can, just say such things. That's exactly what's going to happen to you too. So don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. No. This is one set of things you can do. This is the shrewd manager just showing that you're going to go around and misuse what you've been given and lie to people and be dishonest. What he was trying to show is that you have things that you can do with what you've been given. And you've got to be responsible enough to utilize it in the best way that you can, despite the season or your feeling or the challenges that are around you, or what you presume about the people who you're interacting with or trying to do business with or commerce. A question is popping up on the bottom of the screen. Accumulation of wealth is achieved by A, working a 9 to 5, B, gaining a high net worth, C, coming from money, quote unquote, or quote unquote, or D, diversity of assets. What's the answer? We're almost closing now. So the next thing you will know quite quickly as we close this part about insurance, real estate, and businesses. Note as I'm closing that yes, you can work. Yes, you can save. You've got to find ways to put your money into different places. There's so many credit unions, financial institutions, insurance agencies, investment banks, not only in this country, but all over the place, that you can reach out to gain advice and do the best that you can do. I know this is quite a lot in one full go. But don't sit and think about things in relation to finances, not realizing you can gain something in this world, and do the best with what God has given you. Open a saving account for your child. Ensure you're covered so at the point when you reach older, you have some money left over. That's pensions. Ensure that your health is covered. So when you live longer, you don't have a time when all of the money goes from wherever you are to try to take care of your health, or you have some sort of critical illness plan. Ensure that you're investing into something. You're investing in a church somewhere. You're investing into a charity somewhere to take care of people. You're investing into a company somewhere that you know is doing good into society. And you may get back dividends from it and assist to do some things to prop up your own affairs. Ensure that you are managing the places and the properties for which you are in, even if you're just renting somewhere. Will God find you in a faithful way? Or will you just be so wasteful that your renter has to, get upset with you or to kick you out of the place? Be fruitful. Manage what you've been given and ensure that you do the best with what God has given you. Now, on to Hebrews 1, verse 1 to 2. And what it says is that Jesus has been given some inheritance that he now gives to you. He's the Son of God. He is the heir to the throne, seated on the right hand of the Father. But what he has done, he didn't just hoard it, which is something we discussed last week, or try to do some things for himself and then leave you out there into the wild dust of sin and death. He died for you, which is even a more reason why he was ashamed and argued with the Pharisees who sneered at him, because they were supposed to know the law enough in terms of loving their neighbors for themselves, as themselves, and also doing things in community so that it was fruitful, but they were wasteful. Wasteful. And I implore you that the God of the earth died on your behalf. Are you going to get up and ensure that the very legacy of the things which have been brought to you through Jesus Christ, you stand up in it and be confident and do the best that you can in the places for which you have been sent? Oh God, the very Bible which we have been reading, coming all the way from Proverbs to where we're reading from Luke a lot, and now about to read from Hebrews, were brought to you by men, especially in the New Testament age, who died so you can actually read it. Are you reading it? The people who started to bring the Bible into the more common language of English, which was the most popular at the time in the European area there, and into other Northern Europe area apart from the United Kingdom. Some of them died so that you can have the Bible in the way that you possess it now. What have you inherited? What have you gained that you have been squandering or not even thinking as to the legacy for which it attained to? Does it matter to you? Or is it just, oh, well, that's there? Gosh. That is why Jesus was ashamed of them and started to quarrel with them a lot. Because he should never have been admonishing them when they should have known the things more than the people who are around. And he had to become a shepherd for those people and a doctor for them because they were not doing their jobs. And so he said, you are worried. Let me project back my face. Something catch me since this last 2 or 3 minutes. I'll be finished soon. Don't worry. And he's here assisting people and healing them. They were so afraid of John that they locked him up, killed him, and wonder now, wow, said Jesus, this John came, and there's no one greater than him in the kingdom of heaven. But yeah, anybody who learned this word and understand something is just as great as him. And they accused Jesus who did nothing wrong, never sinned, and said, what are you doing? Casting out demons by Beelzebub, the prince of demons? He said, whoa, Jesus must have said, what is wrong with these people? This man came, John the Baptist, and prayed over you and asked for you to go for repentance and assisted you to try to gain some spiritual maturity. And some of you never even come. And some of you never even understood the lesson. He said it in a different way. He said that he piped and played the tune for them, and none of them never run and come and do what they're supposed to do. Yet so this is why you can't please people. And he fasted and prayed, and he was thin to the bone and wore a coat and was a wild man in the wilderness, eating locusts and wild honey. Yet I come, said Jesus, and I go out into places, and I meet people in different sorts. Tax collectors and publicans and prostitutes. Oh, sinners! Why am I associating with these people? The people said to Jesus. And he said, because they are the lost ones. They need a shepherd. They need a doctor. They need a healing. What are you doing? That's what they should have been doing. That was his accusation. And so you who have the ability, because you know this word more than everybody else anywhere in this place, because you go to church more. If you're tuning into this or something, I can guarantee you go to church more than most people, or read the Bible more than most people. Go out into the places for which you are. Do not be afraid of speaking it. Do not be afraid of anybody who comes with any other knowledge that presume is greater than what you possess. And you put them in their places. Because this world is getting to a place where the very nature of you doing the work that God has sent you is now almost becoming or looking. There are people presume that it is the wrong thing or it is evil. And they will call you the prince of Beelzebub, casting out things because you're of Satan. Don't listen to those people. Listen to what Hebrews chapter 1 verses 1 to 2 says, where God's final word to his son was that in the past God spoke of our ancestors through the prophets at many times and in various ways, but in these last days he spoke to us by his son. That son is of course Jesus Christ, whom he appointed heir of all things. Here, put the H there please. And through whom also he made the universe. So Jesus is not a created being. Jesus was the authority over the same ones who were sneering at him. Jesus is your Lord. Jesus is the one who inherited the very nature of the things because everything came through him. So now he's bringing it to give it to you. Are you going to be prudent to do some things with it? If you receive it, or when you do receive some things, you put it up in a nice way so that the persons who are below you gain it, which is what a will is. Are you going to put some funds in place and make it accumulate and teach others how to do the same so it spins and goes down in legacies over time, way past from which you came? You're just going to be lazy. And then have Jesus give a parable about a widow and then end it by asking, when he comes, will he find faith on the earth? When the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth? The answer to the question, which is scrolling there about on the bottom, I'm wondering if I can put it up on the screen. It's like I probably can. Is the diversity of assets. You are a child of God. We'll talk more and in more details about borrowing stuff next week and about the principles of giving in the last episode. And I think it probably is going to go into October, but that's the last one for this series of 5. But know, quite frankly, that because you're a child of God, that you have the ability to do some things with what you have been given. Don't presume that you are less than or not enough or unable to achieve anything, or you can't put the resources or you put to the pedal and build on something. Oh God, Jesus built on something so much that thousand and odd years later, they're still debating it, but there is no debate. Jesus is God. He said so many times that they killed him for it. Jesus gave so much wisdom that he confused the people from he was 12 years old in the temple. He had so much knowledge and understanding that the people who sat when he was giving the Sermon on the Mount said, wow, this is not a scribe or a Pharisee or some new Rabboni here. This is something different. He spoke with such authority that it shook the nature of the mindsets of the people that were around him. Nicodemus came to him in John chapter 3 and said, oh my God, I know quite frankly that what you are doing here, so this must be of God. I've never seen any man do such a thing. I'm paraphrasing what Nicodemus said. Please read it in John chapter 3. It is the same knowledge that is condensed in the canon of the 66 books of your, in the tradition of your Reformed Church, 66 books. It's different in other places. The same knowledge. And if you want to try to figure out some things in relation to your finances, start there. And start by understanding that where you are is not where you have to end up. And know that this world is so abundant that we even waste in the abundance. So don't worry yourself. Do what you can do and achieve what you can achieve. Let us pray. Lord Jesus, we learned some things tonight about achieving our financial dreams and doing some things great as we can in the nature of businesses and real estate and all sorts of terms such as unit trusts and fixed deposits and high yield savings account and normal savings account and start account for our children and life insurance and critical illness and pensions and all sorts of manners of things in relation to investing in stocks and in companies and in things greater than what we started with. Help us, God, to know enough about who you are, to read your word, go deep in it, so that if we start to build some things, oh God, before it even starts to build the houses and the fields and the vineyards, which Jeremiah prophesied that we will start to pray over it and declare that you are God over even the little things that we possess. You are God over our eyes. You are a God over our hearts. You are a God over our minds. You are a God over our hands. You are a God over our feet. Allow our minds to think creatively and honestly. Allow our hearts to be transformed. Allow our minds to see some things and get some imaginations for great things to produce. Allow our hands to move diligently. Allow our feet to move to places that are correct. Allow us, oh God, to manage ourselves in the way that we should, so that the very nature of this wisdom which is passed through from the Bible goes to where it can go. You are God. We believe that. So let us remember that you are our good shepherd. You will make us to lie down in green pastures. You will lead us beside the still waters. You will restore our souls. You will lead us into places so large that goodness and favor will follow us every day of our lives. Thank you, God, that you show us more and you give us more than we can ever imagine. Exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us. Allow us to believe it, so that it does not become things that we quote, but the very nature of our activity proves it. Assist us, God, to be wise and to steward our lives with the shrewdness of the ability that you've given us. Thank you, God. Remind us of who we are at all times. Amen. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us for Tuesday night Bible study. I know that was a longer one. It will be the longest of all the 5. Go over it. Look through it next week. We're going to get a little more technical. I may have to call a separate session if possible. But know that this will be the one that will be so key for some, because we get into traps with our credit cards. And we get into traps. We try to figure out how to home the home, or figure out how to figure out buying something new. And then we get into problems with places that were kind enough to assist us or lend us the funds that we were trying to use to build up upon some things. But I am going to try to utilize some tools so that you know how to manage yourself in ways that are correct. We are the Hillshire United Church. I am, as ever, Brother Johnny Jermaine Alcock. We are a congregation of United Church in Jamaica and Cayman Island. Some of the information in relation to us are streaming or popping up near there at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I see some people coming on interested. And please, if you missed any of the previous episodes, click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, share this with a friend somewhere, and also go back on the page and you will see some of the things in relation to what we were discussing coming up on the page or somewhere in a playlist somewhere that says how to, or how the Bible teaches to be wise with money. Thank you all. I leave you with some information here. You want to assist or invest into our church. And thank you for all those who have been assisting with the collection in relation to the monetary contributions for fixing the roof. I've had its issues because of Hurricane Beryl. Blessing that God allowed us to pass through that period, and we're all fairly okay, including the church sanctuary. God is real. God is good. God is awesome. Thank you all. If you have any questions, that's was really the reason why I'm here for about a minute or two. Please ask it. Not seen any pop up as yet. But I see that there were people on and some were doing their thing there and doing something. All right. Guys, please have a great rest of your evening. Please ensure that you check out the other episodes in this series, either the previous ones or the ones to come. Have a great evening. And please continue to do good with the things that you possess. You are children of God. As children of God, you have been called to go into places greater than you thought you could ever go. So use what God has given you, know. Diversify and build on some of the things that you possess. And you possess and have been given so much. I love you. Please have a great rest of your evening.